Welcome to the Epic Score Podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Shadid. One of the themes for today is going to be about being open-minded and quickly adapting to changes happening in the world around you. This is something that I've never been super great at, but I'm working on it. And I think the world we're in now really demands good adaptation skills because things seem to be changing faster than ever before. I think my natural instinct is to dig deep into something and try to get good at it. It probably comes from my time as a piano student. You get a new piece of music and you need to dive into the world of that piece to learn it. And in the process, you sort of need to tune everything else out. So the fast-moving trends of the world have always kind of escaped me. I think there's still a lot of value in becoming an expert at something, but it probably needs to be woven into this fast-moving world we've got speeding around us. The other theme that I'll touch on at the end is about perspective. In this world, we all bring different experiences to the table, and trying to understand perspective can be important in understanding the world around us. The launch of Epic Score in May of 2006 was an exciting time for me. We were starting with 5 albums, we had pressed a few thousand CDs, and they were all shipped to our distributor APM Music in Hollywood. I remember walking into their office, and the reception area was filled with boxes. All of them were our CDs. It was a sight to see. That was such a proud moment for me. All the hard work had led up to these boxes sitting there. To see the physical CDs for the first time is a moment I will never forget. In the lead up to the launch, I went to APM's offices to be introduced to the staff. I brought my big Genelec speakers and blasted music in the meetings. It was fun to finally get some outside perspective of how people responded to the music. In one of the meetings, the head accountant, who was not a music person, was sharing her visions of medieval battles in the forest with big sword fights. Those are the kinds of reactions. The reactions from a person not involved in music, those were the ones that were most interesting to me. Most people are not musical experts. If your music can inspire a wide range of people, then it has a chance. So the music launched, and I gotta tell you, the reception was really great. I toured a few trailer houses with an APM salesperson. People were so nice. And it started getting used right away on all kinds of projects. Film trailers, network TV promos, you name it. But in the world of production music, especially when you have a distributor, the money doesn't just show up right away. There's a pretty long lag between when something is used and when all the money is finally paid for that use. Quite often, it can be more than a year. So even though things look promising, I was thinking I needed to keep my staff mixing job for a while longer. I'm kind of a cautious person when it comes to these things. So I was asking myself, how much longer do I keep the staff job? I figured, to be safe, do the mix job one more year. But then something happened at the staff mixing job that changed all those plans. In the summer of 2006, a few months after the launch of Epic Score, a bunch of people were sitting in my Pro Tools mix room at work, and someone sarcastically said, "Won't this be fun when we have to come in at 8 a.m. because the host of the show wants to record the voiceover for the promos?" I spun around in my chair and I was like, what? Basically, one of the hosts of the shows we worked on had decided they wanted to record their own voice to be on the promos for their show, but they were only available at 8 a.m. Now remember from earlier in this story, I was there until 3 a.m. most nights. So coming back at 8 a.m. was something I refused to do. It was really the first time in my career that I had refused to do something. I mean, come on, 8 a.m. to 3 a.m. is 19 hours every day? That's 2 shifts of work. If you really want to do that, you need 2 shifts. I now had other things going on in my life. Well, my saying no caused a stir. People were surprised. So then they tried to figure out how to do it a little bit later in the morning. But this incident really made me angry. I felt like things had just gone off the rails. I was already there until 3 a.m. Shows just kept asking for more and more without any consideration of what it took to accomplish those requests. So I went home, I looked at my wife, and I asked the question, can I quit my mixing job now instead of a year from now? I was in between contracts, and although I had agreed to sign a new one, there was some big weird delay on sending it to me, so I had not signed anything. So my wife and I sat down with a blank piece of 8x11 paper, and we spent the next couple of hours writing down every financial commitment we could think of in our lives, and we looked at our savings, and we guessed what kind of income Epic Score could provide, and when it would start arriving. And we looked at the line of credit that we had on the house, which could be a backup if everything went totally wrong. And after a couple of hours, the entire page was filled with numbers. And we looked at each other and she said, "I think you should quit now." And so the next day, I walked in with my letter of resignation. So in August of 2006, I quit my mixing job, and a whole new life was in front of me. I was nervous, but very excited. I was quitting a year before I had planned, so everything felt like it was in fast forward. One of the biggest changes was simply that I didn't need to drive all the way across Los Angeles to a job any longer. At the beginning, I just chained myself to my music desk, and I sat there all the time. I honestly didn't know how to structure my day yet. It was good for Epic Score, but I needed to adapt to it a bit better. Looking back, I think part of it was a bit of feeling a little guilty that I didn't drive to a job anymore. So I think I punished myself a bit to make sure I was being serious. It was all new to me. Over the years, many people said to me that they could not understand my lifestyle of working from home. They said, how do you get anything done with a TV, a bed, a kitchen, kids, pets, whatever other distractions? But then years later, when COVID hit, all those same people said to me, I totally get your lifestyle. I'm never going back. Over the years, I did consider maybe renting a space in a studio or renting a commercial space, but that's not cheap. The money I've saved over the years by working from home has been very substantial. I joke all the time saying, since I was a teenager, I've only ever really produced music from home. I'm not sure what I would do with myself if you moved my composing setup into a studio environment. Mixing? Yeah, I mixed in tons of studios, but music? No, that's something I do from home. So the next task for Epic Score was to produce the second release, and we dove right in. In the world of production music, I always say that your second release of music is as important, if not almost more important than your first. A first release can be kind of a mysterious thing. You never really know how long it took someone to create it. Maybe someone spent years on it and put a huge budget on it, and then it goes well, and people love it, and they want more. So all the eyes are on you for the next release. If you get it wrong, then people may ask, were they a one-hit wonder? But now it's on a much shorter timeline because you can't take years to make the next release of production music. So the pressure's on. And so we dug in and continued to create the best music we could, and it continued to go well. In 2007, APM had a sales guy that went around Los Angeles and took as many meetings as he could at trailer houses, game companies, and other clients like that. And he would sit with the music supervisors and play them the latest high-impact trailer-style music that APM had to offer. One of the places he went was a trailer or promo house called Crew Creative. He was able to demo some Epic Score music for them, and then he left the CDs, and that was pretty much it. A couple weeks later, someone from Crew Creative called him and said, hey, you should come over and check out something we've been working on. He goes over there, and they play him something pretty crazy. It was a whole promotion campaign and new show open for the first big nature documentary shot in high definition, Planet Earth. The BBC in England had produced Planet Earth, and they had Sir David Attenborough read the voiceover, and then they licensed the show to the Discovery Channel in the USA. Discovery Channel decided to replace Attenborough's voice with Sigourney Weaver. And then they decided to create a whole promotion campaign from scratch and cut a new open to the show. They went with one piece of music for all the trailers, commercials, and the open of the show. It was an Epic Score track that I had composed called The Time Has Come. And when it came out, it was everywhere. In theaters, on many TV networks beyond just Discovery, it was everywhere. They promoted the heck out of it. And people started to ask, where did the music come from? And some music supervisor hopped on some advertising forum and answered the question. And that was the moment that Epic Score entered the public's consciousness. And this is the part of the story where I wasn't adapting quickly enough. I had some old hang-ups that were ringing in the back of my head, and they kind of kept me frozen a bit. In one of the previous parts of this story, I mentioned how 10 years earlier, people pretty much laughed in my face when I told them I did library music. Unfortunately, that stuck with me. I didn't believe the music listening public would care about our music. It was 2007, the iPhone was just becoming a reality. There were internet forums, but social media was still pretty new. Even YouTube had just launched in 2006. And at the time, the thought of Epic Score being something that faced the public just didn't seem realistic to me. And then people started emailing Epic Score asking where they could buy the music. I responded by saying that it was just for industry licensing and that it was not for sale. I mean, people were asking for it, and I said no. Come on, Gabe, get with the program. The concept of epic music fans was just getting going, and I knew nothing about it. I had to be sort of dragged into it. In my interview with Yoav Goren from Immediate Music, we talked about this a bit. We both started to see that fans weren't waiting for us. They were making their own plans to gain access to our music through BitTorrent sites. Our music was being shared on those platforms quite a lot. So between the fan emails and things like BitTorrents, I finally was asking myself, am I missing something? I seem to say that a lot. And finally, 2 years later, in 2009, I decided to test the waters to see if there was something to all of this. And I put 5 of our albums on iTunes and Amazon. No marketing, no mention anywhere. I just put it out. And people found it right away and started buying it. I was blown away. Then one day, a few months into being on iTunes, I was looking at a weekly report of iTunes sales, and 2 seemingly random songs had really surged. Why these 2? They weren't licensed into anything big that I was aware of. With our method of distribution, it was normal that something could be licensed into a big project, and we only find out about it after it's released. But I had heard nothing about these 2 pieces of music. I searched their names on the net, and a YouTube video popped up. You know that game World of Warcraft? Someone had made a preview of an upcoming level in World of Warcraft. And in the video, they used 2 epic score songs. And that video got something like 500,000 views in just a couple of weeks, which was pretty crazy in 2009. In the description, they listed the names of the music and they included links where you could buy it on iTunes. Incredible. And ever since that moment, we've been on the radar of fans of epic music. And there was one other interesting thing that was starting to happen after the Planet Earth experience. People started telling me how lucky I was that I was able to do library music. A decade prior, I was being laughed at. And now people were telling me how lucky I was for doing exactly the same thing. That perspective shift was really fascinating to me. It was just another example that confirmed the idea that if you believe in something, you need to filter out the noise and keep pursuing it. I was good at digging in and being dedicated to things, but I would let certain hangups hold me back. I've said it before, you just can't worry about what everyone thinks, but I feel like I was slow to learn that lesson. And I hope my humble stories can give you a perspective that can help you to do the things that you want in your life. I'd like to finish today's episode with a funny little story about perspective. This is a real story that happened to my wife. One day, she was driving to a ski slope with a friend. They lived in Washington, D.C., and the closest ski slope was a place called Whitetail, right across the Maryland border in Pennsylvania. Neither my wife or her friend had ever been there, and you can't really see the place from a distance because the area's hilly and tree-covered. You only really saw the place as you got really close to it and finally popped out of the trees. Now, my wife grew up in Colorado, worked in a ski rental shop. She was a great skier. And her friend grew up in Delaware, which is almost completely flat, and she had very little skiing experience. So they're driving there, and they pop out of the trees, and both women see the ski hill for the first time. And they both look at it, and at the exact same time, they both said, "Oh my God." My wife was saying, "Oh my God," because she had never seen such a pitiful ski slope in her life. And her friend was saying, "Oh my God," because she had never seen anything so scary in all of her life. So here you have 2 people seeing something for the first time at the same time, and together they say exactly the same words at the same time, and they both meant something completely different. And that is the best story about perspective that I have ever heard, and I wanted to share it with you. My takeaway from this is that all of us bring our own experiences to the table in life, and those experiences really affect how we view things. But I think it's really healthy to be able to understand other people's perspectives. I think our world would probably run a little bit better overall if people could understand the perspectives of each other. If you've got a story about perspective, I'd love to hear it. Put it in the comments down below. All right, that's our chat for today, and I'll be back with an interview next week.